I'm actually here at the Warrego River in Charleville. As you can see behind me, exactly what you said, roads that have been cut off. The water here is at major flood level, and that's because it's a fairly complex system and it's got multiple creeks, rivers and streams that flow into this catchment area. And anything that really happens upstream actually has a flow-on effect downstream, and that's why we've seen renewed river level rises as well as those major flood warnings that have really stuck here for days. And it's a similar story over in Longreach at the Thompson River. That has had been at major flood levels for a number of days as well, even though that water has come down a little bit. Now, there are dozens of warnings in place across the state and they range from minor to major. A lot of those major flood warnings, however, are really sitting around that southwest part of the state. So we are really seeing sort of a lot of that water really sit here. Now, here in Charleville, it's sort of become a hub in terms of having people gather supplies and send them out to isolated communities like Thargomindah and Quilpie, which is a nearby town that's been cut off by these waters. We've seen in the last few days at the Charleville airport a number of hay bale and fodder supplies, as well as pet food, which has really been key, sort of been taking out to those communities. Now, a lot of residents that are here at the moment are residents from those isolated communities. They've been waiting patiently for the roads to open back up, and when they're told by authorities that it is safe to sort of start to return home, we have, however, been told that that is still going to be a number of days. But yesterday, for the first time in nearly a week, over in Junda, which is another community that's isolated, it's about 500 kilometres northwest of here in Charleville, Longreach's road to Junda actually opened back up, and we got a first-hand view of what exactly the experience has been like, and really it's been devastating. So many people returning to their homes that have been completely inundated by floodwaters, and it's really just been heartbreaking. Now, we've heard from the Bureau of Meteorology, thankfully a lot of that rain seems like it's stopping for the next few days. However, the water still here to stay.
Good news is, obviously from a rainfall standpoint, very dry and clear out there this weekend into early next week. But there's just still so much water in our rivers, creeks and streams. And we do have major flooding still occurring on pretty much all of our rivers in southwest Queensland, and even a number of our rivers through central and even getting up into northern Queensland as well.
Dean Narramore there from the Weather Bureau. Now, Ari, a little earlier on Weekend Breakfast, we spoke to a grazier who was really detailing the sort of losses and devastation that a lot of graziers and farmers are facing. Do you have the latest figures for these stock losses?
Yeah, so we do have the latest figures, and unfortunately for Louise Hock, a grazier that's here from the region, as well as many others, it is just absolutely devastating. Now, we have been told by the state government that as of 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon, they've surveyed about 126 disaster areas around the region, and they have found that the stock losses have climbed to about 152,000. Now, that includes about 75,000 cattle, 68,000 sheep, and more than 8,000 goats and other livestock as well that have either been reported missing or dead. This is such a substantial loss, and the Premier, David Crisafulli, spoke a little bit earlier in the week, and he said that that number could realistically climb to over 1 million. And to give everyone a bit of an idea, this is just so devastating. For many people out here, this is their entire livelihood that's been wiped out in a matter of weeks, and really a lot of that trauma and adrenaline has really sort of washed away, and now they're starting to feel a lot of that trauma and the impacts of this, and it's really ongoing.
Ari, we also know that the Prime Minister will be in Western Queensland, and this is, of course, part of the election campaigning in the lead up to May 3rd federal election. Is he expected to be meeting some of the residents that are affected by these floods?
Yeah, we've been told that he is expected to tour around a lot of Western Queensland and see some of the graziers and some of those impacted from this major flooding event that's just historic. Now, he is touching down in Longreach a little bit later this morning, where he's also expected to sort of announce that the Commonwealth has activated their disaster allowance recovery fund, which subsidises up to 13 weeks of wages for any people that have lost them during this event. Now, that is a major announcement, but of course for many people from this this area, they do know that that is not just going to be a matter of weeks where they will be sort of picking up the pieces. It will be months, and this is just how major that this flooding event really is. We also had the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, who was here last week. He had visited a lot of the area and had promised and pledged about $10 million to improve weather radars. That's something that's been really key to this area, because a lot of people actually didn't know that it was going to flood until it really started to happen. There's not a lot of gauges out here, so it is really difficult to predict, and that's something that so many in the community have really been crying out for.